Welcome to Blended Scotch Reviews, episode number 15. Today is Thursday, June 19th, 2025. This channel is studying the blended scotches that the whiskey nerds love to hate. Tonight, we're going to test Johnnie Walker Red, the best-selling blended scotch brand in the world. At the end, we'll make a cocktail, and they might be a single malt reveal. Just the facts. This whiskey is a 40% ABV blended scotch, meaning it is a blend of about 35 single malts and single grain whiskeys. The single malts that includes Cardu, Caol, Teaneck, and it's owned by Diageo. It's about $23 here in Fort Worth, Texas. Tasting notes. The website says it has creamy toffee, sweet vanilla, spicy, pepper, apple, citrus, and smoke. And for me, that smoke is a briny seashore flavor that reminds me of the Gulf Coast when I was a small child here in Texas. My score for this whiskey was an 89. Letter grade, stressing drinkability, solid A. My evaluation and recommendation. Again, this is the best-selling Scotch whiskey in the world because it's good, despite what the whiskey nerds claim. After trying a couple of popular single malts and not liking them at all, I gave up on Scotch about 6 years ago. After much study, I tried Johnnie Walker Red, and it won me over into Scotch. If you're curious and want to try Scotch, this is a good place to start. And now, after several years of continuing my Scotch journey, I find I still love a simple glass of JW Red neat. The details. John Walker was born in Kilmarnock, East Ayrshire, Scotland in 1805, and by 1820 was a grocer who was also dealing in wine and spirits. And if you do the math there, you figure out that he was 15 years old when he was running his own business. His father had died, and his inheritance got him a grocery store, and at 15, he is selling spirits. He gradually started blending whiskeys and developed his own label, Walker's Kilmarnock Whiskey. He died in 1857, and his son Alec and grandson Alexander II took over. In 1860, the Spirits Act of Great Britain was passed, which allowed the blending of malt and grain whiskeys. Alexander introduced the square bottle and the label that was tilted precisely at 24 degrees to make it a very distinctive bottle in the marketplace. It stood out from all the others that were round. By 1862, the Walkers were selling 100,000 gallons a year. The arrival of a railway line in Kilmarnock greatly assisted in marketing the whiskey. In 1867, the blend was called Old Highland Whiskey. In 1893, the Walkers purchased the Cardu distillery, and in 1909, they rebranded to Johnnie Walker, and they had red, black, and included the walking man on the labels. Johnnie Walker Red was Winston Churchill's favorite scotch. He would drink it as a highball mixed with water, and he would drink it throughout the day. So for history, 5 points out of 5. Bottle, label, and marketing. Again, this distinctive square bottle and the slanted label and the striding man make for an iconic appearance. The color schemes of red, black, gold, green, blue, white all add to the mystique and classy nature of this whiskey. The bottle says on the label it was established in 1820. So for bottle, label, and marketing, 5 out of 5 points, because everybody who's into whiskey recognizes this label and this bottle. Appearance. You can see it here in the clear glass bottle. In the glass, it's not real light, but how much food coloring is involved, I'm not sure. That's a 3, a little bit of a low 3, but it's a 3 in my scheme. Composition. Again, there's about 35 different whiskeys in here, single malts and single grain, that produce this. But Cardew and Caol are two of the main ones that are probably available here locally in Fort Worth. The nature of blended, although I haven't seen, I've seen Cardew listed, and I think I saw it a few years ago, but right now it's not available in Fort Worth. Caol is. The nature of the blended Scotch makes it pretty impossible, though, to list all the ingredients. You know, this is trade secret stuff. And when you've got 35 whiskeys going into this, that'd be a heck of a label. Single malts have just one ingredient in a single malt whiskey, so that makes it easy. Blends are an amazingly complex whiskey that end up making a terrific product. Usually, though, I can only find one or two of the distilleries involved in these blends that I'm studying. So, for composition, 13 out of 15 points. Now let's nose this whiskey. I get a little bit of sweetness with hints of apple, definitely apple pears, and the sea breeze with some salty, briny notes. So really, for me, it's an interesting nose. A combination of fruit and maybe caramel and sea breeze. 8 out of 10. My nose is really inadequate for the task, and most of the time I end up just giving my generic score of a 7. So, you know, the fact that I can smell something good here, that's an 8. Now it's time to taste. Mildly sweet. Apples, pears, those are the fruits that I get. Perhaps maybe white grapes. The light peat smoke in here has, to me, the taste of the Gulf of America on the coast of South Texas. And again, my Scotch journey, you know, I tried a couple of single malts that were highly recommended, very popular, and they just did nothing for me. I really couldn't taste anything good. They weren't bad, but nothing there interested me at all. And so I had to study the issue for several months and figured out that most whiskeys from Scotland are the blends, 90%, and that Johnnie Walker Red is the best seller of the lot. And so I started my whiskey journey there. Got about a third to a halfway down the bottle and decided I liked it. This leaves a pleasant tingle in the mouth that lingers for, to me, a medium to long finish, actually. There's nothing bad here. I get no ethanol. There's no burn going up in the sinuses or down into the chest. And I like the burn, so this is very smooth to me. It's very mild. Just the mouth tingles. The smoke is concentrated on the back end. And again, I find it to be very refreshing, like I'm on the shore of the Gulf of America. Or maybe Scotland, but I've never been there. So for taste, I'm going to say 23 out of 25. I mean, I really do like this. And which is amazing because so many whiskey nerds absolutely despise this whiskey. I don't know. Whiskey snobbery is a thing. Mouthfeel, burn, and finish. Again, I'm going to give the mouthfeel a medium, coating my mouth with flavor. The pleasant tingle lingers for a while to a medium to long finish. Nothing bad at all. Mouthfeel, burn, and finish is 13 out of 15. Neat or mixer? Now, I prefer this one neat. Now, yesterday I made a highball using Topo Chico, a carbonated Mexican spring water that we get here in Texas, and ice. And while it was generally pleasant. It so diluted the flavor of the whiskey that it was kind of like useless. I don't know. You know, Winston Churchill loved that kind of a drink, but I guess here on the hot summer days, maybe that would be uh, nice, but I just prefer it neat. Ice and water just dilutes it too much. However, there is another cocktail that I want to try, and that is the Godfather. So stand by and I'll make a Godfather and be right back. Now, Godfather is very simple, just an easy cocktail. You use just the whiskey, ice, and an amaretto. My amaretto of choice is Di Serono. Now you might see that there's not much in there. If you check the recipes, they say 2 ounces of whiskey and 1 ounce of amaretto. Amaretto is sickeningly sweet to me. I mean, it is very sweet. And so I've learned to use just about a teaspoon, not an ounce. So this has made me multiple Godfathers, and this is the last little bit left. So that's about a teaspoon in there, if that. I mean, there's people who drink amaretto straight, and to me, that's just like, whoa, that's way too sweet. And I have tried a Godfather with a unpeated Scotch whiskey, and that really didn't work. You're supposed to do a peated whiskey because you want that smoke flavor to mix with the sweetness of the amaretto. So that's what I've got now. So I've got about 1.5 ounces of Johnnie Walker Red, and then just about a teaspoon of the Di Serono. Stirred that up. And again, that is just super sweet. But now the smoke hits me on the finish. So that's actually pretty good. But amaretto, for me, is super sweet. This is much better of a cocktail than the highball that I did yesterday. And so I would recommend the Godfather. So for neat or mixer, 5 out of 5 points. Price, value, and availability. At Specs, this bottle is $24.20 here in Fort Worth. Goody Goody has it for $22.99, and Total Wine has it for $22.99 as well. While I like this whiskey a lot, I do think it may be a couple of dollars high for what it is. It's got excellent availability all around the world, though. And when you're the big boy on the block, face it, you can charge what you want. So that's why this is, $23, $25. So price, value, and availability, 9 out of 10. Availability pulls it up, price pulls it down just a point, so 9 out of 10. My bonus, 5 out of 5 for bonus, because again, for me personally, this was the Scotch whiskey that converted me to liking Scotch whiskey. So there's an emotional attachment there, plus there's a coolness factor. Johnnie Walker is just cool. What can I say? And if you look over my shoulder, you might see that sign up there. And then we've got a book as well. Right here, A Long Stride, the story of Johnnie Walker. The story of the world's #1 Scotch whiskey. There you go. It goes to the whiskey library. All right, so my total score is an 89, and drinkability, solid A. And again, I know there's whiskey nerds out there who are just throwing a fit because I rate this so high, but you know what? Taste, preference is a personal thing, and so I really like this. There you go. Now, If I do this against Johnnie Walker Black, well, that might be a different story. All right, let me do a reveal of a Scotch that's related here to the Johnnie Walker Red. And here we've got some Caol. You know, pronouncing Gaelic is incredibly hard. I look at that and want to say Caol. Yeah, that's the Oklahoma way of saying it. But Caol is the proper way, or so I've been told. So here's the Ila12, and some of this goes into the Johnnie Walker products. Now, I did a tasting with some family not long ago, and you can see that this is actually lighter in color than the Johnnie Walker Red. It looks like. I mean, they're close, but I think the red's got more food coloring in there. But I did a tasting with some family recently, and let's just say Caol was a little bit too peaty for most of them. Cheers. The peat hits you right at the front, builds throughout, strong finish with the peat smoke. This is amazing. I love the smoky scotches, the Ilas, and this really has got a nice kick to it. So I can see how that fits in with the Johnnie Walker blends. All right, my final evaluation and recommendation. The fact is, this is the best-selling Scotch in the world. However, in the whiskey nerd world, this is reviled, hated, slandered, and otherwise poo-pooed. Yet my personal Scotch journey coming over from the bourbon world was that trying a couple of single malts, they did not do anything for me. I drank the entire 2 bottles over a period of several months. I didn't like them at all. I mean, they weren't terrible, but neither did they have anything I was interested in. So I gave up on Scotch for several months. But my son, who was trying to lead me into the Scotch world, led me to study, watch videos, read, and I found that the blended Scotches were the top sellers, and so I went to the top seller, Johnnie Walker Red. I discounted all the negative stuff that I found out there, and I thought, I'm just going to try it on my own. And lo and behold, something in here clicked with me. It was a memory of my early childhood on the beach in Corpus Christi, Texas. The Gulf of, well, it was the Gulf of Mexico back then, but now it's the Gulf of America. It was a briny sea breeze flavor that brought back those memories. And instantly I loved it. And then I slowly expanded into other Scotch blends and single malts. And so I rate this whiskey really pretty high because I really do love the taste. And I've got an emotional attachment to it. So if you are Scotch curious and you're open-minded, don't approach Scotch as something like bourbon. It's a totally different drink. They're both whiskeys, but totally different. So I highly recommend that you give Johnnie Walker Red a chance and think about the Gulf of America coast and that lovely sea breeze. Or if you live in Scotland, you know, the North Atlantic or whatever. All right, conclusion. Next up for blended Scotch reviews will be the matchup between this Johnnie Walker Red and Famous Grouse Ruby Cask. I'll do a blind taste test between these two whiskeys to see which one I prefer. For now, for Stab the Dragon Productions and Blended Scotch Reviews, out here.